Hello everyone, Karnasa here, and welcome back to Kerbal Gets Real, and this is going to be, well, a bit of a short update on the second half of 1960. Now that we are in the second half of 1960, once again we are going to go for a lunar landing attempt. We also have some very exciting transfer windows coming up. That's right, we've got a transfer window for Mars, and we also have a transfer window for Venus. And here we are at the Space Center at the, well, not the start of 1960, halfway through 1960, I guess you could say. And would you look at that? I have updated my real solar system to get the gorgeous new shaders for Earth. Thank you very much for Felix Yu for putting me onto those. Here we are on the launch pad, and it is the first launch of 1960 Part 2. We are launching the Artemis LLP-2 on the 14th of July, once again using one of those Heracles 60 VII.V launch vehicles, which is more than enough to get this lunar lander up into orbit. This launch went successfully, which was really nice because obviously the last time we tried to launch one of these, well, it failed. The core stage really messed up. It has two engines on the core stage, and both of them failed in some way or another. We had that RL-10 light for the translunar injection, which also was quite nice because that thing does have a rather high failure rate at 30% at the moment, I believe. However, that stage, well, that engine does have 10 ignitions, so if the worst came to the worst, we could always try and reignite it 10 times. One thing about this launch is, once again, MechJeb didn't quite get me in the same alignment as the moon. I think I was about 2 degrees off again. So, one thing about this rocket that I wanted to do was actually keep that RL-10 stage to help me orbit the moon. I was unable to do that. I had to ditch that stage because the lunar transfer actually was way more than it should have been, so we had to use that Juno 6K engine to both capture at the moon completely and then to start our final descent onto the lunar surface. And it is capable, it is definitely capable of doing that, but it does mean the margins are going to be incredibly tight to do that. But here we have our final stages of this craft's flight. Yes, we are performing our deorbit burn now to hopefully land on the lunar surface. We're going to use up the last of that Juno 6K engine, and then of course that actual final little probe core stage has those 5 hydrazine thrusters on it, which will complete the final little bit of the descent of Artemis LLP-2 to hopefully land us on the moon. But there we go, we are coming down hot now, and we have very, very little delta V left at all. This thing was so tight, so unbelievably tight, but we made it. We made it down onto the lunar surface. There we have touchdown, and we had an entire 5 meters per second of delta V left. Like I said, this was incredibly tight, and well, yeah, but still, we did it. We landed on the moon. Now, with that successful lunar landing, we gained an entire 160 science, so we're going to go in and unlock some more tech nodes, because we might as well. They are going to take a little while. Our tech queue is looking rather full at the moment, but might as well get those in whilst we can, and of course do the standard upgrades to the Space Center that we can. Launch number 2 of 1960 Part 2, and this is Hermes 3, our probe that we hope to send to Mars on the 30th of September 1960, once again launching on one of those Heracles 60 VII.V series of rockets. Look at that lovely sunrise as we fly away from Cape Canaveral into the black void of space. This launch went off absolutely successfully, which was, once again, it's always nice when that happens because TestLight is there to kind of throw spanners in the works whenever it can. But no, the launch was successful, and now we're gonna fire up that transfer stage with that RL-10 engine. It worked, once again, brilliant, it worked, and we are going to be on our way to the red planet, where I am sure we will probably not discover Martians or anything like that. No, I don't think we will be seeing any kind of alien life on Mars, but who knows? But yeah, we had to do a little bit of a well, fine-tuning our encounter, because the encounter was rather far away, and obviously we want to try and get as close to Mars as possible to make the most use of the O-Berth effect. I did say when I was designing this spacecraft in the last episode that we do need a really tight orbit around Mars in order for us to complete that ScanSat altimetry reading that we desperately want to get that rather lovely, beautiful map of the surface of Mars. But here I am trying to figure out if I have enough delta V to actually perform this, and we do. We are going to be able to get a good capture at Mars, which is brilliant, but that will take just over a year for this little probe to get to the red planet. Now, it was about this stage of 1960 where I went in and I designed the Icarus 1 launch vehicle, and that is kind of one reason why this episode is so short, because obviously I did that in a build episode. And another reason why this episode is so short is, well, I've not actually got a vehicle assembly building section in this episode at all, because the next rocket that we're going to be launching will be Hermes 5, which is going to be our attempt at going back to Venus. And, well, it's going to be a lander attempt, and I kind of wanted to keep the lander stage of this craft a little bit of a surprise that we can actually see when we get to Venus. But here we go, the last launch of 1960, Hermes 5 on an Icarus 1 launch vehicle, the first time this launch vehicle has been used, and it is the 24th of November. Now, unfortunately, we launched this thing at night so that we could launch into the plane of the moon, so you can't really see what this launch actually looked like, which is a bit of a shame because, like I said, this is the first time that we are using one of these Icarus launch vehicles. This thing is capable of getting 12 tons to orbit, which is absolutely fantastic. It's got a Hydrolox upper stage, which is brilliant. I love Hydrolox upper stages because you can get so much bang for your buck. They're absolutely incredible. They're lightweight, obviously, so your first stage can do much more, and all round, I just really like using them. But here we have our little bit of our transfer stage firing up now. We actually had an ignition failure on the RL-10. It's the first one that we've had, which I'm kind of surprised at because that thing has a failure rate of 30%. But hey, we can fire it up again because it has all of those ignitions, and we did. And yeah, we get ourselves, well, we actually don't get ourselves an encounter with Venus because I messed up the transfer a little bit, which means that we are going to have to go in and make a deep space maneuver in order to really fine-tune our approach to Venus, which is a little bit of a shame because that orbiter stage of the spacecraft does have a ScanSat altimetry meter on it, and now because of those mess-ups, I don't think we're going to be able to use that. But oh well, failures happen, and we will undoubtedly go back to Venus at some point. Now, we have used up one ignition of that Juno 6K engine already. We're going to have to use another one to do our deep space maneuver, and then we're going to have to do another one to capture, so hopefully none of those fail. But there we go, we can see in that payload fairing is going to be the lander. But that was the last launch of 1960 just in general, and well, we almost managed to squeeze in another lunar lander, but we weren't quite able to. Now, one thing that I did actually unlock as well this year that I wanted to go into the vehicle assembly building and start building was the second generation capsules, so Gemini and all of the second generation capsules, I guess you could say. However, I don't have fuel cells, and quite frankly, solar power is not good enough to run that capsule yet, so I'm gonna have to wait until 1961 until I unlock fuel cells, which should be quite soon. I have rearranged my research queue to get those as soon as possible so that we can actually return to crewed flight, and much better crewed flight, but we will have to see that in the next episode, in 1961 part 1. If you have enjoyed this episode, why not give it a like? If you have really enjoyed this episode and would like to continue with the content on my channel, please do subscribe. I have been Karnasa, and I will see you later.